What's going on, boys and girls? The ASTROLABE is live again. They tell me, sir, the ASTROLABE is live again. You must join the live chat, sir. You must share the show, sir. You must hit the like button, sir. We are back. We are so back. Back like we've never been. There will be a Schizo stream tonight. You better join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Don't miss the Schizo stream. It'll be we'll be going live with it exclusively in the King Pill Discord shortly after the end of the ASTROLABE this evening. The plan is to watch the last two episodes of Tucker Carlson's All the President's Men series. One episode will be about Rudy Giuliani and his connection to the whole Russiagate thing, and then the last one is about the man himself, Tucker Carlson. The Alp Man, the American Lip Pillow Man. We're going to get a little Alp content here in a little bit. But if you would like to join us for that Schizo stream, it's basically you kind of think of it as like a Twitter space where just all of us hop into the voice chat and we sit there and watch watch whatever the content of the day is. We sit there and watch it and commentate on it. And then as soon as it's over, we hang out and talk for a long time. As long as you guys want to go. We last week I got off about I'm 12 years old. Got off about 6 in the morning. Lip pillow is installed. There will be many lip pillows tonight during the Schizo stream. So we'd love for you to join us. And it looks like we just got 5 new members of the King Pilled from random username. Thank you, sir. I'm expecting to see you at the Schizo stream tonight. Welcome to Kate J. I imagine she'll be in there at least for a little bit. Toddman67, Mirren Chuck Now, Tobias Ruck, and Scott S. Welcome to all of you. You are new initiates into the King Pilled. It's good to have you. Time for the daily dose of white pills. Yes, indeed. There's a couple stories that I decided not to run with today, just because it's the end of the week and we don't need to think about sad things or depressing things or morbid things. Try to keep it more on the light side of things this time. And we got a member chat from Georgie P, who's now been a member for 3 months. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. He's got a salute. Everyone throw up Romans. It's now fashionable to throw up Romans. All right. Let me think here. What else was I going to say? Oh, if you'd like to support the show, you can join the King Pill Discord. You'll get the most for your money for that. Or if you just want to send over some moolah to help to keep the lights on, keep me doing this, then there's a couple links in the description. Buymeacoffee.com. There's a Cash App link. You can go subscribe, be a paid member on the Substack, kingpill.substack.com. Or you can drop a tip on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, just go to my profile and there's a little link up above, and you can either do it's like top right hand corner, and it's either Venmo or Bitcoin. So those are the ways. I had a couple of people reach out and ask how they could support the show. So those are the ways you can do it for the time being. We'll have more options here in the near future, and another 3-month member chat from the Lion, throwing up the Romans. I see all the Romans in the chat. Mr. Butt Poop is here. It's very good to see you, Mr. Butt Poop. I'm glad you could join us. Ian Carroll, Colum Rush, Slutty Milk, Magoo, Taylor Brown. We got all the OGs in here. Yeah. Keep Matt not homeless. Yeah, that's right. All right. Like button should be hit if you're watching live, or if you're watching the replay. And there's another member chat from Colum Rush. And from random username. All the members' chats are coming in. Welcome to all of you. Now, we have gotten another little release here, a little public release from the cyberbully. Yes, Ian Carroll, I do still have the Buy Me a Coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/kingpill. The link is also in the description. Now, we're not going to play this whole one. I mean, I suppose I could. I could play all 20 minutes of this, but we're not going to do that. I want to give you a little tease, though. The cyberbully vowed to post the full EWBSX demo at 232 followers, and we hit 232 followers last night. Promises made, promises kept. If this isn't how you start every single morning, heretofore, Is that right? No, heretofore actually means up until this point. Hereafter. If this is if you don't start your every single morning with this hereafter, I'm just going to play the first few minutes of it. Then I don't know what you're doing. This is the best way to start your day.
Fellas and ladies, I don't know, maybe. Welcome to EWBSX, the Cyber Bully. I'm your host, the Cyber Bully. Finally got the old airship up and running this morning, so I'm ready to get busy. Speaking of getting busy, I've hand-selected some tunes to get you just sproinked. So, if you're on your morning commute, take it slow. You're not gonna get in trouble. Nobody's gonna miss you. And if you took the day off, good for you. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
You got to chill out. You need to calm down. I know that guy's voice. And not be yanked one way or the other by each new news drop, because that's the purpose of the news drops. The purpose of the news drops are to demoralize and fracture the growing coalition on the right. That's the purpose of them. So when the regime does something to demoralize you, choosing to be demoralized by it is retarded. You can't then claim to be opposed to the regime because you're just functioning as its proxy. This is the way they recruit you, is by demoralizing you, by making you despair, because that's something they can work with. They can feed off of that energy like vampires. So stop fucking blackpilling.
Really, what kind of things could quantum computing actually help us do?
Well, I'm glad you asked. But keep in mind, quantum computing is still in its infancy, Joe, but the potential is there. I mean, with enough quantum power, we could simulate not just physical systems, but maybe even the complexity of the human experience. Like, what would one feel like if one had not had breakfast yesterday? Things like this. Now, I did have breakfast yesterday, so it's irrelevant, but you get my point. We could start to maybe scratch the surface of understanding some of these deep, deep questions that are part of the human experience. Questions that everyone seems to ask, but no one seems to have the answers to. I mean, really, the sky is the limit, Joe.
Attention, folks. Tired of feeling overwhelmed by the chaos? Meet the Orb of Optimism White Pill Suppository, your go-to solution for those tough days when the doom scroll seems to never end. This little white powerhouse is designed to help you reclaim your "we are so back" in the midst of your deepest "it's so over." Just pop it in and get ready to feel that unstoppable energy wash over you. No more stress, no more drama, just pure, high-octane, we are gonna make it energy. It's time to take control and rise above the noise. Don't let the world bring you down. Grab your Orb of Optimism White Pill Suppository today and take your power level up a notch.
EWBSX, the Cyber Bully. Radio for our guys.
You're listening to EWBSX, the cyberbully. Give your eyes a break.
I don't feel the way I've ever felt. I know, gonna smile and not get worried. I try, but it shows. Anyone can make what I have built. And better now, anyone can find the same white pills. It takes my pain away. It's a lie, kiss with open eyes, and she's not breathing back. Anything would bother me. Takes my pain away. Never mind, these are horrid times. Oh, I can't let it bother me.
I look out and I see all the real Americans. I think about how Donald Trump, his family was compromised. When I look out there and I see Donald Trump, I think about how his business was compromised. But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough, and I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
The New World Order is going to take everything you got. They're going to take your children's soul. Are you going to keep bowing down to these people? Everything they do is poison. Everything they do is designed to destroy you. And you got to decide, I'm not owned by the devil. I'm not owned by the New World Order. It's a pack of criminals, and everybody knows it. And that's why the enemy hates me so much. That's why they hate you so much, because they know we're real. They know we love God. They know we tell the truth. When it comes to serving evil, we don't do it. And we stand against it. What matters is your freedom. What matters is your integrity. What matters is who you are, and that you're not for sale, ever. And I don't know how this is going to end, but if you want to fight, you better believe you got one.
Greetings, EWBSX enjoyers. Stand back, stand by, and stay tuned.
All right. We'll leave it there for now. You got 8 minutes. You got 8 minutes. I didn't expect to play all 8 minutes. I was going to do less than that, but I was just vibing with it. I was feeling it. There's 20 minutes of that. For now, there's 20 minutes of it. The cyberbully's hard at work, and rumor has it that in the near future, there will be 24 hours of what you just heard. 24 hours, 7 days a week. Can you imagine? Can you imagine living in that world? Well, you won't have to imagine it, because it's coming. It's coming to your ear holes. Go follow EWBSX Cyberbully on Twitter, and stay tuned. Stay tuned for more. All right, let's get going. We got to have our fun little jokes.
That racism is passed down generationally, so it's internalized, which makes sense. I was walking home, it was late at night, and this black guy walks towards me, and instinctively, I grab my purse, even though logically, I know he's not for sale. He did steal my wallet, though.
Even the Foids are 1350 posting now. What are we going to do? I got this video sent over to me. Someone's been spying on Cooper and got a video that he'd posted. This was a private video, but somebody stumbled upon it, and I've got a whole new respect for that silly little man.
You remind me of what I really am.
incredible. Absolutely remarkable. I've got to say that I am down with that guy. Okay. And we're gonna kind of push through some of these clips here kind of quick because I got a lot to get to, but these are stacking up. I got to make sure I get all of them in here. It's happening. Lots of things are changing. Executive orders flying out like crazy. And this may be the most important one of all.
Today, I am signing an executive order making it legal to call your friends fags and retards if they are doing something faggy or retarded. Fags and retards, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to start calling our friends this again. And we will. We're going to call them fags and retards again.
You heard it. We've got our marching orders from our president. I'm your top guy, Mr. President. I need to start calling my friends fags and retards. Well, it turns out I never stopped. I was ahead of the curve. But all the rest of you, now you got it. Demonetized. Oh, yeah. See, every single episode is demonetized. Without fail, within, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes of the stream ending, I get a push notification from YouTube that says, your episode was determined to have copyrighted content and it has been demonetized. And occasionally it'll say blocked in some territories or blocked in all territories. The some territories, it's funny, the things that get blocked are typically like, I don't know, like top 40 sort of songs, American music, and it always gets blocked in Russia and Belarus. The funniest one was Red Hot Chili Peppers. I played something that had Red Hot Chili Peppers in it, and it was blocked in Russia and Belarus. Lukashenko is not a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, apparently. All right. Shout out to Paul Suda. He's in the chat. I played the week 1 recap last week, and here we go. If you guys haven't been tuned in this week to everything that's happening, we've got a full recap for you.
Actions that Trump has been taking in his first few days in office. I should note we just got the 2-minute.
Let me know how the volume is.
We do expect to see Caroline Leavitt come.
It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun.
The State Board of Education passed a set of proposed rules Tuesday that'll now head to the legislature for approval. One of them requires proof of citizenship when enrolling in school. Walters says the documentation will help the state comply with the federal mandate to deport undocumented immigrants.
On immigration, of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws, and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
The worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the break. If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminals.
There are 2 million employees in the federal government.
Right. Our boy!
They're overwhelmingly leftist-centric. The American people, I gotta finish the sentence.
Okay.
I gotta finish the sentence. The American people voted for dramatic change implemented by Donald Trump. So it is essential for him to get control of government, to establish a whole-of-government process for Donald Trump's political appointees to review discretionary grants of spending for pet projects that are not directed by Congress. So these are pots of money where Congress hasn't said how to spend it or where to spend it.
Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country, such as Catholic charities?
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that.
Do you need to use the big military planes? Is that part of a kind of shock and awe tactic?
No.
They haven't been used before, have they, for migrants?
No, we got President Trump. We're going to use all the government to secure our border, which is the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen. And we're going to force laws.
Hulk Homan!
It's not okay to enter this country illegally. It's a crime. And when you cause a crisis as big as the Biden administration caused, when you overwhelm the border patrol, and they can't do their national security job, that's when fentanyl come across, kill 250,000 Americans. That's when you have a 600% increase in sex trafficking. That's when you have a record number of non-suspected terrorists coming across an open border. President Trump's going to secure the borders promised to the American people. We're going to force immigration laws. That's what we're going to do, without apology.
we will be the first line of defense for anybody that's in the American homeland.
Noam was in New York City just hours before, alongside heavily armed federal agents and NYPD officers as they arrested dozens of undocumented migrants in the Bronx to be deported.
Get the dirtbags off these streets.
Mayor Eric Adams saying in a statement about the raids that he will not hesitate to partner with federal authorities to bring violent criminals to justice. Around the country, the White House ramping up immigration raids.
President Trump has sent a loud and clear message to the entire world. America will no longer tolerate illegal immigration.
President Trump is expected to sign 2 executive orders relating to the military today. ABC News is reporting that the first will reinstate service members removed from the military for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine, restore their rank, and provide back pay. The second directs the Department of Defense to determine a policy regarding transgender service members based on readiness.
We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
You have said you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI.
The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
You know, we may have tough talk from others, but it's not going to mean anything. They're going to all take them back, and they're going to like it too. They're going to like it. They're going to take it back, and they're going to like it.
Shout out to Paul Suda. We're definitely going to make this a regular thing. As long as he wants to keep making these, we're going to keep posting them. Did anyone see another plane crash in Philly an hour ago? Yeah, I saw that. I saw the video of it, and it's just breaking now, so I didn't grab any links for it or anything, but that thing was that I don't think there was anything accidental about that. That looked intentional. The way that was just, I don't know shit about this. I'm just speculating based on seeing one quick clip of it, but I've never seen a small passenger plane cooking like that, just straight into the ground. I don't know if it was an act of terror. I don't know if it was just someone deciding to self-delete. I don't know what it was, but the first, I didn't include any of the stories about the Black Hawk and CRJ collision that happened a couple days ago, because at this point it seems fairly cut and dry. It was legitimately just an accident. There's some stuff that is rolling around. There's some schizo stuff that is kind of interesting about how just recently they were talking about these Black Hawks being able to be remotely piloted, and there's still some other information we need to get regarding all the different passengers and everything. But there was one post that was going around. This is just really not helpful. There was one post going around of that supposedly the pilot was a tranny, and it was just not true. It was just completely not true. But someone posted it, and everyone's ready to jump on that, so it went viral. And I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of people who just believe that going forward because the debunk doesn't get the same level of visibility as the regular one. And I love my schizo posters out there. I love my Q people. But every once in a while, one of these happens that it's just annoying, because then you just have to keep debunking it, and it's just plain not true. In the immediate aftermath, this is a point that Charlemagne made on Pony Express Radio for the Old Glory Club last night. Just like with the immediate aftermath of the attempted Trump assassination, it's not useful for everyone to spin off and go down all of these crazy conspiracy rabbit holes on it. Which it's ironic. It's weird for me to be the one saying that, because I am a connoisseur of deep conspiracy theory rabbit holes. But every once in a while, there's these major events that can be immediately channeled into political capital or political advances. That's the narrative. So in this case, as Charlemagne said last night, in this case, all the other potential conspiracy aspects of it, whether or not they're true, there's no utility in getting into all of them right now. The narrative here is DEI killed 70-something people because of the DEI impact on the entire industry. It has ripple effects. It doesn't have to be apparently it was a woman pilot, but she was also very experienced. And it could just as easily have been not a woman pilot in this case. That the effects of DEI go beyond just having an unqualified person who's unqualified because it's a woman or because it's some ethnic minority that's there simply because they're an ethnic minority. It's also the case that when they begin lowering standards to accommodate those people, it also accommodates other people who are incompetent. Or in this case, the air traffic controllers are understaffed. They've got a lack of talent because of this is like the downstream effects of DEI. That's the narrative here. The narrative here is DEI killed all of these people. It doesn't need to be, oh, this is actually an act of trainee terrorism and there's an embedded cell in there that maybe it winds up turning out that that's true. Don't rule it out. But planting your flag on that immediately just isn't useful. So here we've had two major plane crashes all of a sudden, and I mean two is a coincidence. Two can be a coincidence. One happening is one happening. Two happening is like, okay, well, it still could just be we happen to have a collision in a place where having a collision seems very. It's not completely out of the question that something like that could happen, given all the circumstances, the time of day, there was no moon, it was dark, it was a Black Hawk, which is designed to be difficult to see in the first place, and it's very difficult. There's lots of great commentary on that from other people. But right after it broke, I contacted a few different people that I know who could weigh in on it, and they said, yeah, after looking at all the details here, it seems pretty clear that this was just a legitimate mistake. Now, a second plane crash suddenly happening in a very dramatic way like this. Now, that's starting to get a little curious. If we get a third one within the space of the next, I don't know, week or two, then that's when it becomes, that's when we know this is starting to become a pattern. There's something that's going on here. Yeah, first time is an accident, second time is a coincidence, three times is a pattern. Exactly. And Woodpit420 says, feds are known to gay up fake information to discredit. Yes, right. So if that's the case, like, you don't want to use the methodology of the Fed. This is like irrespective of the potential actual truth of the matter. The thing to do is to go dig into it and try to figure out if it's actually true, if there's legs to it, versus just like amplify it and start running with it as if it's true. Those are just discrediting and disorganizing, and ultimately demoralizing. Okay, so this is everyone's talking about the vibe shift. Vibe shift is evident everywhere, but particularly in these things. This is the sort of thing that's almost more significant in a certain sense than the than whatever the administration is doing. Like, that's obviously very significant. I'm not trying to downplay that, but in theory, you could have some sort of an insurgent political operation that's happening, but it's disjointed with the culture. And so ultimately, its success is going to depend upon just how much the culture follows along with it. And here, this sort of thing happening, and I don't care whether this is scripted or organic or what, just the fact that this video exists with this happening is a strong signal of which direction the culture is trending and how fast it's going that way.
You guys anxious? What do you do?
Unemployed.
Yeah. Well, sure. That would make me anxious as well. What did you do before?
Worked for the DNC.
Yeah, they're cutting jobs right now, I'll tell you that. Everyone out. We need 100% turnover. What did you do for the DNC?
Counter misinformation.
I'm sorry, I don't think anyone did a worse job than you. This past year, bro, you did the worst job. Really? I wanted to do a set, but now I'm really interested in what you're saying. You were countering misinformation. How are you supposed to go about doing that? Just commenting on TikToks? Yeah, actually, if you look at the facts, this isn't true. Going on Rogan's YouTube page. Well, if you look it up, vaccines are actually quite safe. From the DNC official page. Yeah, no. I know, we're all in this room. We all know. You might want to just not say that was your last job. What are you applying for now? What?
It is like, this is the public perception of the DNC now. I was saying this after the election. Like, immediately after the election, it was obvious that this is the direction that things were going. It is now completely unfashionable to publicly be a Democrat or identify with the Democrat Party or anything like that. It just is like, oh wow, you're a loser. Oh, you're part of those unsuccessful people that just got epically blown out and humiliated. Oh, how did that feel? How did it feel to fail at every single thing that you were trying to do? Nobody wants to be associated with losers. Just simply being a winner is enough for most people. Hazael says, not only are we cool, they are uncool. Right. For decades, the Republicans have been like, hey, but we're also cool. See how cool we also are? And we haven't just gotten that. They were aiming too low. They were like, oh, we should also be cool. No. We are cool. They are not. We'll have more on this here in the meanings of all of this. We'll get into some of that a little bit later. But let's keep it moving. Speaking of cool, RFK, during his hearing, the watchful eyes spied it.
Stem cell research on...
Up!
Run that back.
Run that back.
Sarah, freeze that.
Full screen.
Okay, freeze that. Tighten up on that, man. Can you clear that up any?
I don't know. Let's enhance it.
Enhance section A6.
I enhance the detail and...
Stem cell...
American lip pillows. I love this. This is how you market a brand, man. This is how the Alp boys know what they're doing. And I know a lot of people were wondering what ALP stood for. At this point, it should be obvious. ALP stands for American Lip Pillows, which is just... When I first saw the name, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. I wonder what ALP is supposed to be. What does this relate to? American Lip Pillows. So good. And then this one here, they said the competition could try to steal the spotlight, but they can't steal the truth. Fact check. RFK was using ALP. It's time to set the record straight. Flood the feeds. Let them know the truth. We got to flood the feeds, boys. I love this. Look at this. They actually went and got a hand model. Someone here takes very good care of his fingernails and very, very nice, well-proportioned hand. Mimicked it. See? Proof. RFK is an ALP man. Are you an ALP man? I haven't got my first tin yet. I need to get that ordered. I'm hearing so many good things about it. I'm working through some rogues that I had, and then I'm going to become an ALP man. And rumor has it that there is a soon-to-be developed partnership between the cyberbully and ALP. More on that soon. All right. What did you think mass deportations meant? Vibes? Essays? It wouldn't be an episode of the Astrolabe if we didn't get an Ausländer Rausch clip.
So all you criminals, all you lowlifes, all you scumbags, all you drug dealers, and all you crooked politicians need to answer one question, brother. what you gonna do when Donald Trump and all the Trumpomaniacs run wild on you, brother?
Our boys make the best hype videos, the best commercials. We need to be taking over the advertising business. This is one of the things that the cyberbully has let us know is that one of the long-term goals with projects like EWBSX is insinuating ourselves so deeply into all these different industries that we direct all of the marketing and advertising. You want to grab the wheel of the culture and turn it? Take over all of the marketing and advertising. That's what they did. We're going to do it right back to them. Theo Von is on quite an arc. Theo Von is becoming dangerously based.
What's a country you might visit, man, if you ever could visit somewhere?
I would say Germany.
Okay. Would you ever go back to your homeland, your family's homeland, you think?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sure, buddy.
Sure, buddy. Okay, so speaking of immigration, I need to update you guys on something. There's a thought that I had after I finished talking about this on the last Astrolabe on Wednesday. I played this clip where Trump said, "I'm signing a law that requires the Department of Homeland Security to detain all aliens that have been arrested for any crime that results in injury or death. States will also now have the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the U.S. like happened for 4 long years." Now, he mentions future administration. And this is what I talked about on the show. But then, as I was thinking about it, I realized something, and this is what I wrote. I said, I mentioned this on the Astrolabe today, but this sentence, the one I just read, states will now have the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the U.S. like happened for 4 long years. This sentence is a BFD. Not only is the administration going ham on the immigration crackdown, they are now legally obligated to continue. I mean, obviously, the executive has always been legally obligated to uphold immigration law, but they've now further codified that obligation by substantially empowering the states to hold them to it. When I commented about this on the show, I was thinking of future administrations, but it just struck me that this applies to this administration. They quite literally must continue to rigorously prosecute immigration law, or they'll have Ken Paxton all the way up their ass. This is from Congress.gov. Quote, "The bill also authorizes state governments to sue for injunctive relief over certain immigration-related decisions or alleged failures by the federal government if the decision or failure caused the state or its residents harm, including financial harm of more than $100. Specifically, the state government may sue the federal government over a decision to release a non-U.S. national from custody, failure to fulfill requirements relating to inspecting individuals seeking admission into the United States, including requirements related to asylum interviews, failure to fulfill a requirement to stop issuing visas to nationals of a country that unreasonably denies or delays acceptance of nationals of that country." So repatriation, if a company or if a country unreasonably denies or delays acceptance of nationals of that country being repatriated back, then the federal government needs to stop issuing visas to them. And if they don't, the states now have grounding explicitly to sue the federal government on that basis. Violation of limitations on immigration parole, such as the requirement that parole be granted only on a case-by-case basis, or failure to detain an individual who has been ordered removed from the United States. So now, with the Lake and Riley Act being signed, all of these things, if this federal government or any future administration does not do these things or does these things, the state government now has explicit grounds to sue for immediate injunctive relief. And so I was investigating this issue with Grok, and this is one of the things I asked, and Grok replied. The Lake and Riley Act stands out because it not only mandates specific enforcement actions by the federal government, notice this, but also provides a novel mechanism for states to challenge federal policy through the courts if they believe immigration laws are not being enforced adequately. This represents a significant shift toward giving states a more direct legal avenue to influence or compel federal immigration enforcement activities, which is not as explicitly provided in prior legislation. So this Lake and Riley Act it seems to have kind of flown under the radar, but this is a massive, massive shift in not just the implementation of the prosecution of immigration law within this administration, but it's now providing the states assurances to be able to force it down the line. And it strengthens this current administration's position with respect to the courts because this has been made law. So now they have a legal obligation to crack down on immigration to the nth degree pursuant to the Lake and Riley Act. This is yet another example of this pattern I've been talking about, that they're not just doing all the good stuff, they're also backfilling everything around it. The first Trump administration wanted to do a lot of these things, but wasn't anywhere near prepared enough. They didn't have the operators in place with the plans and with this ability to do just like a whole of government blitzkrieg. And they're covering all of their bases really, really well. So not only are we going to massively crack down on immigration, we're also going to leverage Congress into ensuring that we're legally obligated to, and future administrations are now legally obligated to do this, or they're going to get sued by the states. So they've also strengthened the state sovereignty in this. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of states that wouldn't sue, but all it's going to take is a couple. And there's plenty of attorneys general, state attorneys general, who will happily sue on that basis. Taylor Brown says they're fortifying the sovereign's decree, so to speak. Yes. Okay, and then regarding this federal funding freeze, so I was waiting for something else to turn up on this, and nothing has come through for a couple of days. So I'll just give my comments on it for the time being. So there was this OMB memo that was issued on January 28th, directing all the different agencies. It put a freeze on this funding and directed all these different agencies to present reports back to OMB to be able to then determine on a case-by-case basis what of this funding was going to be unfrozen. And they explicitly had mention in there that all of the the entitlement programs for individuals, so WIC and food stamps and Medicaid, all those things were untouched. But it was all these NGO grants and loans and all this other funding that was being frozen. Then a judge issued an immediate injunction on the basis of that memo. So he said, everything that's being, based on this memo here and everything that's contained in it, we're stopping that right now until this can be hashed out legally or judicially. And so then they rescinded the memo. This is Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. She said, this is not a rescission of the federal funding freeze. It's simply a rescission of the OMB memo. Why? To end any confusion created by the court's injunction. The president's EOs on federal funding remain in full force and effect and will be rigorously implemented. And so what I can make out from this, and I think what their angle on this is that they issued this memo giving all of this direction. So now everybody knows when the president has issued these executive orders, this is how he wants them applied. The fact that they've rescinded that memo doesn't make the memo disappear. All those agencies, the memo is still out there. And they're saying the federal funding freeze is still on. But now there isn't like an individual targeted thing that can be sued. So this is going to do one of two things. Either it's going to immediately push to the Supreme Court the Impoundment Control Act, which is something that the administration has signaled that they want to have hashed out, because they believe that the executive has the right to say, just because Congress approved spending for this particular thing, we're not obligated to spend that money. That's how it's been. If Congress approves spending, then not only is once Congress approves this particular spending on this particular issue, then the executive is obligated to spend that money. They can't spend more than that, but they can't spend less than that either, which is absurd. This effectively eliminates the purpose of the executive. The executive is no longer the executive. So they want to directly challenge this Impoundment Control Act. However, it may not even necessarily need to get to that, because by rescinding the memo, as I understand it now, any sort of lawfare aggressors from the regime who want to challenge this are going to have to challenge each of these things on a case-by-case basis. They can't just challenge the memo itself, because it doesn't exist anymore. So they said, here's how to do all of this. Here's what the president wants you to do. The judge has the orders an immediate injunction on it. So they rescind it. So now there's no court case, and they say, but the freeze is still on. So to all the agencies, you need to keep acting as if the memo is still there, effectively. And this is where the chaos actually works to their advantage. Because with everything else they're doing, this complete vibe shift within the federal agencies, they're in the midst of all of this, they're also, each of these individual federal employees has to consider, am I going to get fired? Is my agency going to get shut down? Maybe I should just take the resignation offer. So there's all this stuff that's going on for each of the individual employees. So they're not going to have the capacity to like really ramp up and blockade anything that's happening. And then anybody who is like that inspector general at the USDA, anybody who's like refusing to be fired or refusing to leave, they're just marching them out, but with security. So I think this is a case, as I understand it right now, this is a case of them intentionally creating some chaos here to use the legal system as it is right now against itself. They can't lawfare on this basis because they don't have the capacity to go through and like individually challenge every single little thing. And even if they do, okay, so you get some teams of lawyers that try to pick out the things that they can go challenge, and you get bogged down in court cases over that. But everything else is all getting... There's going to be a tremendous number of people who just comply, who just do what the president says. Well, the memo's not there anymore, but we're just going to comply. We're just going to run everything through OMB. We don't want to make any enemies. We don't want to identify ourselves as an enemy of the regime or as an enemy of the new regime, because they'll come after me. Maybe I'll just get fired and I won't get the resignation offer to myself. They have absolutely inundated all of these federal employees with so much shit all at the same time that they basically have no choice but to comply. This is one of the greatest examples, collectively, one of the greatest examples of realpolitik operation by an incoming administration that I've ever seen. Politically Catholic says any NGO that comes out and sues about the impoundment marks themselves as enemy controlled, and they and 2 Degrees of Freedom definitely get their money canceled. Yes. Yeah, it's also daring people to out themselves. And then Kurt Schlichter here had a good thought on this. He says, there are so many great things about these funding freezes. First, they save money. That's a good end of itself. But second, they deprive the enemy of money. So it's not just saving the money, it's depriving the enemy of money. They starve the leftist NGOs and other advocates of the leftist agenda. That's terrific. Third, the total lack of a change in life for normal Americans as a result of this freeze demonstrates that they weren't there for normal Americans in the first place. And normal Americans were right to not want to subsidize them. Fourth, it wastes the time of the regime media and the Democrats complaining about it, while also destroying their credibility because, well, see number 3. Normal Americans don't give a shit about this stuff. So to the extent that the regime media and the Democrats complain about it, they just demonstrate themselves to be even further and further out of touch and incompetent. And a lot of these NGOs are fully funded effectively by these federal grants. So if those grants get frozen, they can't operate. And this is where I say, like, the chaos actually serves the administration. It's actually to the advantage of the administration because, like, they can't just fund themselves indefinitely, and they can't fund all of the lawfare that would be necessary to challenge all of this, especially when every NGO is all getting hammered with this all at the same time. There just simply is not a war chest available to fund all of that, particularly because many of the war chest funders have already abandoned ship. It's just such a well-conceived, comprehensive obliteration. John Conrad says, there are still no major leaks in Trump 2.0, and Dems are playing catch-up and losing. Here's why. I'm deep in the investigation on Panama with sources inside the country and top U.S. officials feeding me intel. I have more access, better insights, and stronger contacts than I've had in 15-plus years as a journalist. And yet, I still have no clue what Trump is going to do. Neither does any journalist. Why? Trump 1.0 brought in, quote, the smartest guys in the room to brainstorm solutions. But those planning sessions leaked instantly, giving Democrats time to counter them. Trump 2.0 fixed that. Now, multiple teams in separate think tanks, working groups, and agencies are working on the same problem independently. No leaks, no coordination below the highest levels, no clear frontrunner until the last second. Each team develops wildly different strategies, then presents them to Trump, or Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, who picks a plan at the very last minute before they execute at full speed. So yes, I have insight into multiple possible strategies for Panama, but I can't report anything because I have no idea which one Trump will actually run with. So there's multiple teams in separate think tanks, working groups, and agencies that are all working on the same problem independently. So Trump has sent all these different groups out and said, okay, you go solve the problem from this angle, you solve the problem from this angle, you solve the problem from this angle, you solve the problem from this angle. Come up with a strategy and then report back to me. And then we're gonna go with one that we decide on at the last minute. So you can report, you can get leaks or something, you could have someone that gets access to something and they say, oh, this is what Trump's planning on doing. So if you've got like plan A, B, C, D, and E, and someone comes in and leaks about plan D, okay, well, you just take plan D off the table. And you've still got A, B, C, and E. The same thing, if this is happening with Panama, I guarantee this is happening with Alberta and with Greenland and with tariffs country specific. It's the libs have no idea what they're up against. They don't have a prayer. And they're very unsettled. Here's two of the worst people in the world talking to each other. Will Stancil, the lol cow of the internet, says the craziest thing is that they had months to plan what they were going to do when they got in office, and they're kicking out insane government-destroying orders and memos and emails seemingly live, direct out of their fevered brains with no plan at all. Imagine believing that. And Chris Hayes says, kind of looks like there are 12 to 18 red-pilled social media addicts aged 25 to 30 who are effectively running this entire federal bureaucracy at the moment. That's right. That's exactly what's happening. And Aristophanes, my body is a machine that turns esoteric group chat conversations into executive orders issued by Donald Trump. And all kidding aside, like this is actually what's happening. Our guys have never been more influential or better positioned to capitalize on all of these opportunities. I had a long conversation with someone the other night talking about this, that within the workforce, within the federal contractors, the think tanks, NGOs, tech companies, all these different institutions are full of undercover our guys. They may not have all the same, they may not be like, autistically embedded into Twitter and know all the memes and everything, but they're our guys. And they've been waiting for their time to shine. And now we're getting our time to shine. But here's the thing. The bulldozer is coming through. This is what the administration is. The administration is a bulldozer that's coming through and bulldozing out all of this bullshit. Bullshit. And then they have their priorities that they're going to invest in and fund and build up and whatever else. But the most important thing for us is that they are bulldozing stuff out of the way. And you get people who want to like argue and complain that like the bulldozer isn't the right brand. If I'm hiring someone to bulldoze some property for me, I don't give a shit what brand bulldozer they bring in to do it, as long as it bulldozes it. It could be some brand. It could be like a like a Volvo or something, and I'm a cat guy, so I hate the Volvo. Whatever. As long as it gets cleared out, that's what matters. So if you got Kash Patel, and he's a Jeet, who gives a shit? He's here to bulldoze. Let him bulldoze. Where your effort and energy should be focused is on building in the wake. So they clear out all of this territory, and it's up to us to go in and backfill that territory. And I'm talking like literal land and also conceptually and ideologically and institutionally. Now is the time to build American things. American companies, American products, American families, American institutions, American supply chains, American professional networks. Build something American. Because that's what they're doing. They're giving us the space to build things that are American. And then they want things that are American. Because the more people who are building American things, the more valuable America gets. We have the ability to create assets where there once was no assets. And we can add to America's balance sheet. So they're going to clean out a whole bunch of liabilities. And then they're going to invest in backfilling those. And we have the opportunity to be on the receiving end of that. Whether it's the receiving end of new federal grants, new federal investment, or by just simply building the things ourselves. And I know I'm speaking a little abstractly here, just saying build things, but it's because there isn't one domain where this applies. Like, I don't know, security companies. We've got all of these old GWAT guys who've been spit upon by the federal government for decades now. And now we've got a good old boy running the Secretary of Defense. Who's the Secretary of Defense, running the DOD now. And they're talking, we've got a U.S. Senator talking about letters of marque and reprisal. So if you have the experience and the network and the capacity, the time, whatever it is, to start building up your own little private defense contractors, then by God, start building your own private defense contracting company for whatever thing that you happen to specialize in. Or go, I don't know, get into supply chain management or software or whatever. But I'm telling you, all of this stuff is coming, and it's going to this terrain is going to be occupied by someone. And the more time you spend complaining that the people who are moving in to occupy it aren't the people you like or the people you prefer, the more you're losing. Now is not the time for complaining that things aren't going optimally. Now is the time for investing yourself into making things be optimal. Let's get some Kash Patel stuff here. Senate Judiciary, the Democrats of the Senate Judiciary Committee are very upset that Kash Patel, Donald Trump's pick for FBI director, shared a video launching a United States senator out of a catapult and posed with it. An unapologetic extremist. Sounds like our guy. He got a watermelon with a hat on it and a picture of Adam Schiff. Bennett's Phylactery said, we're going to put you in a fucking catapult. This is the dude who is going to run the FBI. And you want to complain that he's a Jeet? Get the fuck out of here, man. We've now got gamer words in the congressional record.
Where I testified before that committee, because of my personal information being released by Congress, I was subjected to a direct and significant threat on my life. And I put that information in the record. I had to move. In that threat, I was called a detestable, and I'll apologize if I don't get it all right, but it's in the record, a detestable sand nigger who had no right being in this country. You should go back to where you came from. You belong with your terrorist home friends. That's what was sent to me, where I testified.
That clip is going to live on in infamy. Now, as Brent Taylor here says, to be fair, if you go back a few years, those gamer words are still in the record. Indeed. There's a famous clip of Joe Biden. You know what? I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Hold on. I played this last night for someone, and I'm just going to prove it. Some of you guys may have already heard this clip before, but let me get it to the right spot here. Here we go. This is a 1985 hearing. Here's Joe Biden.
The allegation that important legislators in defeating the Nunes plan in the basement said, quote, "We already have a nigger mayor and we don't need any more nigger big shots."
God, we live in the best time. A couple of funny things that happened during the Kash Patel hearings. I think he's going to be approved. I don't think there's any problem. Oh, Tulsi's confirmed. Officially? I didn't think she was going to have any problem. I think RFK is not going to have any problem. I think they're going to be confirmed. And I think that I think Kash Patel is going to be confirmed. Because there's going to be problems if he's not. But there was... this one here doesn't directly pertain to Patel, but this is Chuck Grassley and John Kennedy. And I love both of these old fogies. This is great. Like, this is distinctly American. A couple of old dogs just barking at each other.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to lead, Mr. Chairman. Yes, what do you want? I love this guy. Mr. Chairman, I'm like Senator Tillis. I mean, if we're going to start this, I want an extra 3 minutes. Well, now, my friend Senator Klobuchar went 3 minutes over.
So, here what you're saying is the chairman wasn't a very good chairman by not shutting her up. But I've gone through this before, and I think I know how to handle it. And get
I think you're a star-spangled awesome chairman. I just want to say that for the record. But if you're going to let somebody over there go 3 minutes over, I want my extra 3 minutes.
Well, let's see if it's abused by anybody else before we make that decision.
I'm just telling you, I'm going to abuse it.
Well, I'm not going to let you abuse it.
Mr. Chairman.
I love these guys. Here's another one.
If you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
My colleague and friend Senator Durbin called you a conspiracy theorist. You remember that?
I do, Senator.
You were instrumental in revealing that the Trump-Russia election collusion hoax was a hoax, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was a lead investigator.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
Facts matter, Senator.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists are up something like 37-0.
And here's the "you have 2 minutes" clip. Kash Patel to Amy Klobuchar. Who was it down here said this? TC says "you have 2 minutes" was fire. Kash is going to be an absolute nightmare for the libs.
The rest of the interview. This is why snippets of information are often misleading and detrimental to this committee's advice and consent process.
If you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions, and then I could read the whole transcript.
You've got 2 minutes.
Wow.
I would encourage you, if you haven't already, go listen to Kash Patel's interview with on the Sean Ryan show. That'll give you a good idea of what Kash Patel is all about. He is he's a Long Island boy, devout Catholic, and he strikes me as the type of guy that if like he'd be a great drinking buddy, and he's probably the one who might bring the Coke. Like that's like he's a brawler. He's a brawler. He's pissed off. He's been personally affronted by all of this stuff. He knows where the bodies are buried. And he's coming in with an absolute mandate. He said, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I think you got to understand what this stuff is. Like, you can't hold someone to something like this. It's mostly rhetorical. But he said that if he was made FBI director, then on day one, he would turn the FBI building into a museum. And fire the vast majority of FBI agents or reassign them and just turn it into a museum. I don't think he's actually going to do that, but it shows you directionally where his head is at. One quick story here. I saw a bunch of people. I would have talked about this yesterday, but I wound up not having a show. I saw a lot of people who were freaking out about this. Trump signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism. Come on, share the screen. Trump signs executive order to combat anti-Semitism. Additional measures to combat anti-Semitism is the order. And so everyone's, oh, yeah, okay, it's time to melt down. I told you guys this was coming. I told you that there was going to be a move that was made that was bad. And everyone was going to say, it's all over now. See, proof. Trump is the Manchurian candidate. This undoes all the other things that he did. However, if you go in and look at the actual text of the bill or of the executive order, let's ask Grok. Let's see what Grok says here. Trump's executive order aims to combat anti-Semitism by using legal tools to prosecute, remove, or hold accountable those perpetrating unlawful anti-Semitic acts. The order requires federal agencies to report on civil and criminal actions that could be used against anti-Semitism within 60 days. It includes recommendations for educational institutions to monitor and report activities by foreign students that might lead to their removal if they engage in anti-Semitic activities. Recommendations for educational institutions to monitor and report activities by foreign students that might lead to their removal if they engage in anti-Semitic activities. And if you read the whole bill, I'm not going to read the whole executive order. I'm not going to do it here. But if you do, you'll see that there's multiple mentions of the educational institutions, and it talks about the Department of Education and the Secretary of Education. That's the focus of this executive order. Now, obviously, the MAGA coalition is a coalition movement that includes both the majority of the people who are inclined toward engaging in anti-Semitism and the majority of people who are inclined to be very upset about anti-Semitism. And somehow this coalition has to hold itself together. So there were lots of who donated a lot of money and contributed a lot of time and effort to getting Trump elected. And when you have a coalition government, you're going to have to throw a bone to all the different constituent interests that put you into office. So this sort of thing was inevitable. But the only thing that it really has distinct teeth on is gutting a bunch of what effectively is a bunch of foreign shitlibs or foreign sympathizer shitlibs in the university system. So this measures to combat anti-Semitism executive order is actually one of the first volleys being made toward higher education. Everyone's like, when are they going to go after the university system? That's what this is. This is going after the university system. Because the people that they're going to go after under the auspices of this bill, the character of person that they have in mind is the people who are like burning American flags and the Occupy Wall Street types and the Weather Underground types. Those are the people who this bill is this executive order is targeted at. So they got the tiny hats got their token bone thrown to them, and yet even in that token bone being thrown to them, there is still consistency on the highest priorities, which is let's give ourselves additional measures to throw foreigners out of the country. Let's give ourselves additional measures to kneecap the leftist power structures. That's what this is. And a very smart man, Andrew Torba, says, obviously this is not ideal or good. We're supposed to be dismantling the Civil Rights Act, not invoking it to protect a particular tribe from criticism. That being said, it seems crafted specifically as another way to get more foreigners out of our country. The First Amendment will always be our beachhead, and there will likely be cases that arise from the enforcement of this that will win on First Amendment grounds if used against U.S. citizens. But again, it appears to be designed specifically for use against foreigners on college campuses. And that's exactly it. The Palestine lobby is what this is targeted at. And I am more than happy to have every last individual from the Palestine lobby thrown out of the country. I don't care. Cry me a river, tell me about all the bad things that are happening there. I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm very aware of how bad the things are over there. I'm also an American. And I want the American government to be focused on Americans. And I want them to use every possible angle that they have to get non-Americans out of the country. Especially non-Americans who are ideologically anti-American. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face. All right, let's get to... got a couple more little ones here. The Trump administration's CDC has removed a webpage titled Transgender and Gender Diverse Persons. It instead redirects to the page for STIs. Look at this. Transgender and Gender Diverse Persons, the page you were looking for, has moved. You will be automatically redirected to the new location in 10 seconds, or you can click here to go to the Sexually Transmitted Infections page. How are they so good at this? Like, not only are they doing all of these things, like getting rid of the webpage, transgender and gender diverse persons is great. But then they just add that extra little something. Just that little something to show exactly who the people are who are doing this. Exactly where they're coming from. Our guys are everywhere. Yeah, we do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling. I should have had that clip. And here's another one. Old Chuck Dirk. We haven't seen Chuck Dirk around here in a while. He says, this picture belongs in the Smithsonian. This photograph was taken 2 days ago at the FBI Academy in Quantico and submitted to the New York Times under the condition of anonymity. If a picture is usually worth 1,000 words, this one is worth millions. And this is from Zach Lambert. So he's definitely upset about this. And look at this. Look at this. You know, normally I might have a problem with just like the plain gray. But in this case, it's perfect. It's perfect. Just cover it all up. This is a place for business. This is a place for serious business. Chuck Dirk says, this picture belongs in the Smithsonian. And you know Zach Lambert is seething at getting a quote tweet from Charlie Kirk. And then this dropped this afternoon. Musk aides, this is from Zero Hedge. Musk aides lock career staff out of computer systems at U.S. government personnel agencies, sources say, from Reuters. Oh, look, a counter coup. Quoting from Reuters. A team, including current and former employees of Musk, assumed command of OPM, or the Office of Personnel Management, on January 20th, the day Trump took office. They have moved sofa beds onto the 5th floor of the agency's headquarters, which contains the director's office and can only be accessed with a security badge or a security escort, one of the OPM employees said. The sofa beds have been installed so the team can work round the clock, the employee said. We've got TECHBROS going founder mode on OPM, which means many more big things are coming. And Josh Steinman, a guy who's becoming a regular on the show, we'll hear more from him here in a little bit. He says, you yearn to shut down the Department of Education, fumble around for years trying to coalition build on the Hill and with fancy donors. Me, yearn to lock Department of Education staff out of the building, brick their laptops, revoke their email credentials. We are not the same. This is, if you guys, I've talked about him a lot here. If you're new, if you don't know who he is, Joshua Steinman, he was on Trump's National Security Council for all 4 years of his first administration, an Iraq vet, and one of the boys behind the Gundo phenomenon. This is the perspective of the Gundo boys. We're going to talk about Palantir here in just a little bit, so we'll get into more of that. But why not both? I'll allow it. And another one. David Lebrick. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I'm just going to say Lebrick. David Lebrick, the former fiscal assistant secretary of the Treasury, controlled the computerized payment system the government used to pay out $6 trillion a year. He refused to give Trump's team access to the system to conduct an audit. He decided to retire instead of comply with the president's directive. Yeah, he refused to allow the Trump's team to audit the Bureau of the Fiscal Service's computerized payment system. There's also this guy. This is interesting. I'll see if there's more on this later on. Former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors was arrested on charges of conspiring to steal Federal Reserve trade secrets for the benefit of the People's Republic of China. He sold out America to the Chinese for $450,000. I've seen a couple headlines about it, but I want to see if there's more coming on that. But they are cleaning house. Fiscal assistant to the secretary. I think he was the number 2 guy at the Treasury, and he wanted to block their access to the government payment system, which, if you recall, the executive order establishing the Doge granted them access to all non-classified whatever they needed, like all data, systems, anything non-classified. Granted them access to it. This guy was like, well, no, I'm not going to grant you access to it. And so it looks like they probably said, we're going to give you the chance to retire, in which case you probably get to collect your pension or something like that, or we're firing you. And that's why he retired. They're serious, folks. The Biden regime tried to burrow in January 6 prosecutors before President Trump took office. They've all been fired. And this was issued today from the acting deputy attorney general. And it was a memorandum for the director of the Executive Office for United States Attorneys, the deputy director of the Executive Office for United States Attorneys, the assistant attorney general for the Justice Management Division, and the acting United States Attorney, United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. Thank you. It says, you are directed to take all steps necessary to effectuate the termination of the employees identified in Appendix A, effective immediately. It is my understanding, based on information provided by EOUSA and JMD, that these employees are still within the probationary period associated with their hiring processes, and that they were initially hired as term employees at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia to support casework relating to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. In an executive order issued on January 20th, 2025, President Trump appropriately characterized that work as having involved, quote, a grave national injustice that has been perpetrated upon the American people over the last 4 years. It is also my understanding, based on information provided by EOUSA and JMD, that after President Trump was elected to his second term in office, the Biden administration's Justice Department converted these employees to permanent status. The manner in which these conversions were executed resulted in the mass, purportedly permanent hiring of a group of AUSAs in the weeks leading up to President Trump's second inauguration, which has improperly hindered the ability of acting U.S. Attorney Martin to staff his office in furtherance of his obligation to faithfully implement the agenda the American people elected President Trump to execute. I will not tolerate subversive personnel actions by the previous administration at any U.S. Attorney's office. Too much is at stake. In light of the foregoing, the appropriate course is to terminate these employees and to take all appropriate steps to ensure that resources allocated to their hiring and employment is available to acting U.S. Attorney Martin for merit-based hiring. Finally, the circumstances of the conversions are the subject of an ongoing inquiry at the Justice Department, including pursuant to President Trump's January 2025 executive order entitled Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Please take all steps necessary to preserve all records, including documents, emails, text messages, and other electronic communications relating to the conversions and other personnel decisions regarding attorneys hired to support casework relating to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. So not only are they being fired, but also preserve all records, including documents, emails, text messages, and other electronic communications relating to that or other personnel decisions regarding those attorneys hired for that, because there is an ongoing inquiry at the Justice Department, and I expect eventually we're going to actually see criminal charges against some of these people involved in this. What was the next one I had here relatedly? Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk talking about this. He said, today the Trump administration terminated 30 prosecutors involved in bringing federal J6 cases. Just as much as the prosecution of Donald Trump, the 4-year nationwide unprecedented manhunt for people who just milled around the Capitol or simply stood on its steps, alienated half of America from the Department of Justice. It wasn't long before it clearly became an act of prolonged political revenge intended to torment its victims. This is an important step toward rebuilding long-term trust in America's federal prosecutors. So there was, what was I going to say about this back here? One interesting little tidbit that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about is that Pam Bondi has not been, I believe is not actually confirmed yet. So she is not the person running the Department of Justice. The acting Attorney General who is running it is, let me see who this guy was. Let me pull this up. There is a benefit to him being the acting Attorney General because, as Trump has said in the past, he said that he says, I love acting. Acting is very useful. James McHenry. So this is the dude who is the acting Attorney General. And what that enables, he's the one who's firing all these people, because if he was not, if it was the actual Attorney General, then there's like a 90 or 100-day hiring and firing freeze for whatever reason. And if he, because he is the acting Attorney General, he can just fire all these people. If they'd confirmed Pam Bondi, then she would not be able to fire all these people. So they're using this little legal loophole to ensure that they're able to fire all the people they want to fire immediately. And here's his background. Immigration attorney James McHenry to temporarily lead Justice Department. Longtime Justice Department immigration attorney James McHenry will serve as acting U.S. Attorney General until President Donald Trump's pick, Pam Bondi, can be confirmed by the Senate. He'll be charged with running the Justice Department, which Trump has vowed to shake up dramatically in the early days of his administration, a role that will include defending Trump's agenda against legal challenges. Trump's former defense attorney, Emil Bove, will temporarily serve as acting Deputy Attorney General, the official said. Bove would have been the one who wrote that memo that I just read, because it was from the acting Deputy Attorney General. Emil Bove was, let me make sure I got the facts right on this, he was one of Trump's personal defense attorneys. Clerked for Richard Sullivan at the Southern District of New York. So he's an SDNY guy. He's from Sullivan and Cromwell, which should get your attention if you are a WASP aristocracy appreciator. He worked as an associate at Sullivan and Cromwell before becoming an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, where he served as the co-chief of the National Security and International Narcotics Unit. While there, he led the unit's prosecutions of Nicolas Maduro, Cesar Sayoc, Tony Hernandez, and Fabio Lobo. He left the office in 2022 to work in the private sector. He became a partner at Blanche Law, the law firm established by Todd Blanche. Donald Trump added Bove to his defense team in September of 2023. Bove and Blanche represented Trump in his election obstruction case, classified documents case, and falsification of business records case. And so he's gone from being Trump's. So he was involved in the prosecution of Maduro. Then he was Trump's personal defense attorney, and now he's the deputy attorney general. And then Todd Blanche is also, let me see what position he was put in. It says it says Deputy Attorney General for him as well. So it actually, one of these things is wrong here. This article says Emil Bove will be the acting Deputy Attorney General, but it says Todd Blanche is the Deputy Attorney General. Maybe so he was going to be the acting, and then Todd Blanche is going to be the deputy, and then Emil Bove is going to be the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General. Anyways. Separately, the White House named as acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll, who currently heads the FBI's Newark office after the FBI's current career Deputy Director Paul Abate retired earlier on Monday. So this is the guy. This is the guy running the Justice Department right now, and he's an immigration attorney, longtime immigration attorney. And then the number 2 is one of Trump's personal attorneys. Okay, let's get this over. And then, okay, last other piece of big personnel-related moves today, also from Chuck Dirk. Breaking: the 51 former Intel officials who engaged in brazen election interference and lied about the Hunter Biden laptop have now been banned from entering federal buildings. It should be noted that this will likely negatively impact their consulting and lobbying grift. And that includes John Brennan, the fucking commie scum, James Clapper, John Bolton, all of these guys. Not only did they have their clearances pulled, Leon Panetta is another one. Not only did they have their clearances pulled, but they are now banned from entering federal buildings. This is like a like they're on the cusp of being declared enemies of the state. And I hope it happens. All right, so that should update you guys on all of those specific details there. And then, what do we got here? Okay. This is quite a remarkable map of Southern California. So the New York Times has released a 2024 voting map, and the change from 2020 and results are staggering. In Los Angeles, only red islands are Beverly Hills, Glendale, which is the Armenians, and Pico, which is Jewish. So here's the first map. So this is the actual results, the actual 2024 results. So you can see there's a couple little red spots, including Beverly Hills in particular. And then this is the change from 2020. So all the red is indicates the shift from 2020 to 2024. So you can see virtually everything did not just shift red, but it shifted hard red. And if this is happening in Southern California, you can imagine what it looks like in other places. He says, look at the change map. Dark red shift, especially in minority-majority eastern areas. Only tiny areas spared from the red shift compared to the 2020 voting patterns. If this isn't proof that there's a revolt against failed leadership by the socialists and communists and corrupt interests posing as Democrats in California, I don't know what is. After the fires, I bet this map would be even darker red. No one wants to live in fear that their home and community will burn due to incompetence. No one wants to live in fear that they'll be attacked or robbed by a violent homeless person who's given a free $1 to $2 million condo for life in their neighborhood. Well, they have to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. This behavior is ending the political careers of countless people, including Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, who are so out of touch that they honestly think they're doing a great job. And it'll end the political futures of so many others, as well as giving fuel to honest, moderate candidates who actually love their city and state and nation. I agree with all of this except for this. We don't need any moderate candidates. Let's get us a radical in Southern California. But there, look at the before and after. So I guess it's not technically before and after. This is the actual result. So it's still blue, but it's gone from significantly more blue to less blue. There's a link to the voting map here. So if you want to get that, you can go to the King Build Substack and you can go play around with it and look at some of the other locations and what sort of trends they had. So let us now take a moment to celebrate our vice president. As Andrew Torba says, the Overton window is shifting so rapidly in our direction that it's almost impossible to keep up at this point. All of our ideas, talking points, critiques, and subculture itself are being normalized and mainstreamed before our eyes. I thought we were another 5 to 10 years away from this. Glorious. So here's the latest indicator of this. Our boy, being interviewed on Fox News, Jack Posobiec tweeted this out. This is what he had to say.
But there's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country, and then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. A lot of the far left has completely inverted that. They seem to hate the citizens of their own country and care more about people outside their own borders. That is no way to run a society. And I think the profound difference that Donald Trump brings to the leadership of this country is the simple concept, America first. It doesn't mean you hate anybody else. It means that you have leadership. And President Trump has been very clear about this, that puts the interests of American citizens first. In the same way that the British Prime Minister should care about Brits and the French should care about the French, we have an American president who cares primarily about Americans, and that's a very welcome change.
What is President Xi doing? What is Vladimir Putin
He's looking
doing?
after the Chinese. Putin is looking after the Russians. They're entitled to do that. Thank God we now have an American president who's looking after the citizens of his own country.
Our vice president sounds like he's been listening to the ASTROLABE, doesn't he? Now, Rory Stewart, this dysgenic-looking, freakish, limey shitlib, quote tweeted him. He says, "A bizarre take on John 15:12-13. Less Christian and more pagan tribal. We should start worrying when politicians become theologians, assume to speak for Jesus, and tell us in which order to love." Actually, let's see what Connor Tomlinson had to say. I didn't see this earlier. Of course, here's your heat map. If you guys aren't on Twitter, you may not have seen the heat map. This is the heat map. Heat maps indicating highest moral allocation by ideology. The highest value on the heat map scale is 20 units for liberals and 12 units for conservatives. Moral circle rings from inner to outer are best described as follows. 1, most inner, is all of your immediate family. 2 is all of your extended family. 3 is all of your closest friends. 4 is all of your friends, including distant ones. 5 is all of your acquaintances. 6 is all people you've ever met. 7 is all people in your country. 8 is all people on your continent. 9 is all people on all continents. 10 is all mammals. 11 is all amphibians, reptiles, mammals, fish, and birds. 12 is all animals on Earth, including paramecia and amoeba. 13 is all animals in the universe, including alien life forms. 14 is all living things in the universe, including plants and trees. 15 is all natural things in the universe, including inner entities such as rocks. And 16 is all things in existence. And the conservative, you can see the heat map here. The conservative sentiment or mind is located right around. It looks like it's centered on 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's centered around like all of your extended family, all of your closest friends, and all of your friends, including distant ones. And then it starts getting into a little bit of all of your acquaintances. That's where the conservative allocates most moral impact. The liberal, look at this out here on the center of it, is all living things in the universe, including plants and trees. That's 14, way out here. And the innermost reach of the red is on 12. So all animals on Earth, including paramecia and amoeba. This heat map tells the entire story. So Connor Tomlinson here says, C.S. Lewis wrote in the Screw Tape Letters about how one of the most devious means a demon can use to lead men astray from virtue is to, quote, direct the malice to his immediate neighbors, whom he meets every day, and to thrust his benevolence out to the remote circumference, to people he does not know. In light of that, in your tweet, Rory, I think about the following study a lot. This is that study. So, JD's response. He says, just Google Ordo Amoris. He could have left it at that. We have a vice president who tweets. We have a vice president who tweets himself. This is no like, this is literally him firing away with his own thumbs. And he says, just Google Ordo Amoris. We have a St. Augustine appreciator as vice president. He continues, aside from that, the idea that there isn't a hierarchy of obligations violates basic common sense. Does Rory really think his moral duties to his own children are the same as his duties to a stranger who lives thousands of miles away? Does anyone? Absolutely nukes the dude, but he doesn't leave it there. He continues. I've said before and I'll say it again. The problem with Rory and people like him is that he has an IQ of 110 and thinks he has an IQ of 130. This false arrogance drives so much elite failure over the last 40 years. Oh my God. Our vice president is midwit posting. He just IQ bell curve dunked on a limey shit lib. Absolutely stunning, remarkable development. So what is this Ordo Amoris? I've got a couple of interesting responses on this. Yeah, I just witnessed a murder on Twitter. Before I get to that, I have to say, let me sit up for this. I had a lot of people in my mentions telling me that JD Vance was a problem. JD Vance was not our guy. JD Vance married a Pajit. JD Vance is affiliated with Peter Thiel. JD Vance is a tryhard. I'm accepting apologies. My DMs are open. You can hit me up. I'll be polite. I'll be cool. But you can hit me up. You can DM me and you can tell me, I'm sorry, I was wrong. JD Vance is our guy. It's completely obvious the dude has an anonymous account. He has been posting with the best of us for a long time. He has been deep in the Twitter alleys for a long time. He knows our memes. He knows our values. He shares our values. How far we've come from Mike Pence, from Kamala Harris. We went from Kamala Harris to JD Vance. He might be the smartest vice president we've had in my lifetime. And obviously the most closely aligned politician in who knows how long. And he is the heir apparent of the entire MAGA movement. Could we be any more blessed? The future is so bright. All right. I had to take my victory lap. This is from Alec Coachman. I don't know. I'm guessing he's probably not Cockman. That was probably not polite. He says, the Order Amoris, or Order of Love, is not novel. It's biblical. Love God first, then neighbor. Mark 12:30 and 31. Provide for your own household. 1 Timothy 5:8. Families should care for their own before the church does. 1 Timothy 5:4. Do good, especially to the household of faith. Galatians 6:10. If you don't love your brother whom you can see, you don't love God whom you cannot see. 1 John 4:20. The Pharisees are condemned because they prioritized mission but neglected true discipleship. Matthew 23:15. Jesus condemned the Jewish Corban rule because it exalted false religiosity over filial piety. Mark 7:9-13. Biblical love is ordered. And this is a great point right here from Jesse Hughes. Not to mention, the Great Commission in Acts 1 is also ordered. Jerusalem, local. Judea, region. Samaria, neighboring regions. All the earth. So the Great Commission, it says to take it to Jerusalem, then to Judea, then to Samaria, then to all the earth. This is the concentric circles are present This is a distinctly Christian notion. And it's been at the root of so much of the degeneracy inherent to liberalism is the way that it has undermined and diluted this notion. It's basically outlawed prioritizing your own over the other. The nations are instituted by God. The nations are beautiful. It's great to have nations. We must preserve our nations. It's evil to forcibly mix them and dilute them together. And honestly, here's where I kind of feel a little bad for the libs. Mr. Miranchuk has made this point that when you feel like you have to love the entire world at the same time, that's a burden that no human being can function under. It doesn't even mean anything. I see people will be tweeting about stuff and they'll say, oh, well, this other person that I disagree with or that does this thing, like, I still love them. What does that even mean? I still love them. Like, is this like some words you say to yourself in your head? Is it like you imagine a circumstance where your love was put to the test and you just say, oh yeah, in that circumstance, I would do the thing that shows that. But what are you actually doing to love them? What does that even mean? This is really just kind of like masturbatory. I love everyone. That doesn't even make sense. The very notion of loving something implies a hierarchy. There has to be an order to the love for it to even make sense. If I say I love some guy in, Zambia, and I love my wife, what does that mean? Does it mean I ascribe equivalent moral value to both of them? Well, it can't. This isn't even functional. This is like a virus, a mind virus that cripples people and completely disables them from actually doing anything. Love has to be performative. It has to be actionable, which means it has to be directed towards someone you actually have contact with. So it has to start closest to you, and once you've established it, it can begin working out from there. What's up, Mama? I see you in the chat. To have a vice president that can even grapple with this idea, much less be able to passionately defend it and to go out of his way to passionately defend it, is... I've run out of superlatives. How do I even say this? This from Nancy Percy. She says, Augustine wrote about this. Because there's people who are saying, there's a lot of non-Christians who decided to weigh in on this, of course. Like, there is no religious tradition that gets instructed by members who are not part of that tradition more than Christianity. Lots of non-Christians, people are like, oh, this is what the Bible says. Are you a Christian? No. This person says that this is not a very Christian concept. And Nancy Percy says, Augustine wrote about this, quote, unlike secular humanitarianism, Christianity does not seek to destroy our natural affections in the name of one's abstract duty to humanity. Christianity places our affections into proper order. In The Abolition of Man, C.S. Lewis advocates an Augustinian Ordo Amoris, a hierarchy of loves. According to Lewis and Augustine before him, we must love things to the degree they ought to be loved. It is wrong to love something too little, but it is also wrong to love something too much. We must establish a priority among the things that we love. Most important for the Christian is the love of God, followed closely by the love of family. There is something like a concentric circle of loves radiating out from each person, with the innermost circles deserving our greatest focus. And this is from Modern Age Journal. This is a quote from a modest defense of nationalism. It's a middle way between local biases and bloodless abstractions. I'm not going to read this whole thing here today, but because I haven't actually read it. I just saw that tweet, and I wanted to read that tweet, and I'll get around to reading that and see if it's worth reading the whole thing on the show here. But the fact that these are the conversations that we're having now is such a white pill. And having this conversation kicked off by the vice president himself, as Powerful Mutual Orrin McIntyre says, J.D. Vance has shifted the narrative from Christian nationalism is scary to what is the proper application of Christian doctrine. And this is the meta. I think a lot of people aren't necessarily capable of keeping track of the meta, but this is the meta to what's happening right now. The narrative has shifted from Christian nationalism to how are we going to best do Christian nationalism? That's the debate going forward. We've come so far in such a short time. All right. Let's talk about Palantir. Josh Steinman. He says, several weeks ago, in a rare moment of downtime for both of us, I hung out for an hour with my friend and Palantir CTO, Sankar. Shyam Sankar. We talked about business, engineering, management, family. I asked him, what has been your biggest lesson? His answer stunned me. It doesn't get easier, Shyam said. You overcome each challenge, and your reward is that you get to be here tomorrow for the next one. Palantir has been an overnight success. It only took 19 years. Showing up every day. Palantir hasn't been an overnight success. It only took 19 years. Or no, maybe actually I said it. It isn't a typo. Palantir has been an overnight success. It only took 19 years. Showing up every day and coming back the next. Mind of a champion. So this here is Mr. Sankar. I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to read a piece that he wrote in Pirate Wires about what the tech right sees in Trump. And then we're going to talk a little bit about defense contracting and the types of changes that are coming.
I think it's terrifying. I think it should.
This is context for this video was I saved this a while back. This is a month ago, but I'd saved this back then and waited for a time to drop it in here. But this is talking about the drones that were going around New Jersey.
I think it's terrifying. I think it shows. I have an expression inside of Palantir. The orcs in the Lord of the Rings sense, they spawn in the seams between teams. And I think a large part of this effort is it's not a tech problem, really. It's really we have a division of responsibility between FAA, DOD, and Homeland Security. And we need to reorganize ourselves around the problem, not be so victim to these arbitrary boundaries that we put up there. And I think this is, again, manager mode versus founder mode.
When you say terrifying, what could it be? I want to pick up on this. It'll be the headline, obviously, so be careful what you say. But when you say terrifying, why?
Because it shows a lack of domain awareness. It's one, we should be able to know everything that's happening on the homeland airspace, and we should be able to defend against it. Whether you shoot it down or not is a different decision. But we need absolute control, and we need to be able to know with precision where this is coming from and what our options to deal with it are. Play this forward where you go from overflight surveillance of bases to the protection of the homeland, the stadiums that we have. How are you going to protect the people from these assets if you can't protect the bases?
So I'm playing this because this is a guy that I'm going to start keeping an eye on a little bit. You'll understand more after some of the more stuff we go through here, but I want to bring him to your guys' attention because I have a feeling that we're going to be hearing more from him. This isn't. I'm not hinting at anything. I've just got the spidey sense. I've got some of the same spidey sense that I started getting when I first started going down the PayPal Mafia rabbit hole. And it's coming back. I'm starting to get that a little bit again here. He's a very interesting guy, the way he thinks. So this is an article that he wrote. I've got the link to the tweet here that'll be the Kingfield Substack or in the show notes or the description for the podcast version of this. Trump will get America out of manager mode. What the tech right sees in Trump. Here's the article. Pirate Wires is very worth the subscription, by the way, especially if you want to keep track of these guys. What the tech right sees in Trump. Palantir CTO Shyam Sankar on America's pivot from manager mode to founder mode. Do me a favor and hit the like button as I read. We're at 95. We need 5 more. We got 155 watching right now, so we might be able to get to the next threshold of 125. Next time I look over there, I expect to see it at 109 because that's where it always is. We always have to hit 109, and then we have to call for 110. As President Trump begins his second term, he has the support of many business leaders, especially the entrepreneurs and founders who make up the ascendant tech right. Why did this faction emerge and rally behind the president? Some point to policy issues such as regulation, taxation, government contracting, and antitrust. Others note that self-interest and perhaps self-preservation motivated its members as much as principle or policy. But sincere converts to the tech right share at least one thing in common: a belief in founders, change agents capable of upending stale industries, taking on Goliath and reaching into the future to unite it to the present. The tech right sees founders and the qualities they embody and inspire in others as the key to company success. Conversely, founderless institutions don't work, like a body without a head, or perhaps without a soul. You'll note some of the subtext to this is very... If you've come through the same, ideological progression as me, and I know many of the others of us around here, you'll hear the latent Yarvinism when these guys talk about this. When they talk about founder mode, and they differentiate between founder mode and manager mode, there's a very Yarvinian nature to this. And this was part of what I started picking up on a year and a half ago when I started watching these guys, that they are recognizing and identifying managerialism as a problem. The PMC, the professional managerial class, they're identifying this as a problem. Now, they're doing it more from the commercial, innovative side and less from the political side, but it was just a matter of time before they started applying these observations. Like, wait a second, having these managerial, bureaucratic monstrosities totally compromise our own effectiveness and productivity and ability to innovate and build and create and invent. It's just a matter of time before they start directing that sentiment toward the federal government itself. And this is now what's happening, is we're getting the federal government being treated as a buyout, like a leveraged buyout, stripping it down to its core features, and then running it like a startup. With its support of Trump, the tech right is just applying this model to politics. There you go. The ultimate stale industry, and Washington, D.C., the ultimate Goliath. In Donald Trump, the tech right and the American people see a leader. More to the point, we see a founder. I'm never going to get tired of being vindicated. What is a founder? At the most basic level, a founder is an originator. He gets there first. The reason he's first is because he has the qualities required to be first. A tolerance for risk, vision, relentlessness, hunger, capacity to inspire, and a belief in the primacy of winning. If you want to be first, you need vision, courage, and drive. If you want to stay first, you need to keep those qualities alive in your organization. You have to be right on your vision, then you have to rally your people to that vision. You have to inspire them to sacrifice comfort, ease, and quite possibly more to achieve that vision, day in and day out. Luck is a factor, but founders have a way of making their own. Christopher Columbus wasn't merely lucky when he landed in America instead of Asia, and he didn't get there by being risk-averse and content to deliver a modest return on his patron's investment. Columbus discovered America by risking his and his crew's lives to deliver a power law return and change the course of history. Plenty of smart people have noted the starkly different outcomes of founder-driven institutions and their headless, faceless counterparts, though Paul Graham was ultimately the one to popularize the concept of founder mode and manager mode. When companies operate according to conventions, norms, and best practice playbooks, they are well managed, into the ground. The focus shifts to how things ought to work instead of how they, in fact, do work. This leads to a corporate cargo cult that prays at the altar of process. This dynamic would have been fatal for Apple in 1997 when it was just 90 days away from bankruptcy after John Sculley's manager mode tenure as CEO, were it not for the fact that previously ousted founder Steve Jobs returned to the company and then proceeded to turn it into one of America's most valuable companies by inventing the iPhone. The tech right sees America as stuck in manager mode. While SpaceX put more than 300 rockets into orbit for less than $10 billion, California has built 1,600 feet of elevated rail for $11 billion and now projects its high-speed rail project will cost a total of $128 billion. Unimaginably large parts of Los Angeles were just destroyed by a devastating fire while its fire hydrants didn't work, and while fire department leadership seemed more focused on DEI than saving lives. The federal government allocated $42.5 billion on rural broadband and has connected 0 homes after 3 years. Congress earmarked $7.5 billion in 2021 for a 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. By May 2024, only 8 had been built. Not 8,000, not 800, 8. In Donald Trump, the tech right sees a founder who can get the whole country into founder mode and lead us to a new golden age for America and its people. Trump's campaign operated like a founder-driven organization. In 2015, he took on both the Republican and Democratic establishment like an insurgent, and won handily. He did this in large part by saying things Americans knew were true, but that his competitors either couldn't see or couldn't say. He saw an opportunity in a bipartisan political class that wasn't serving its customers, and disrupted the market. Tearing up the conventional playbook, Trump called in directly to cable news to stir the pot and drive attention during his first campaign. Then, in 2024, he mostly circumvented the ailing traditional media and went direct to voters on long-form podcasts like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. Like the founder of a particularly nimble startup, he was guided by instinct and capable of pivoting on a dime. These qualities carried over from his campaign to his first term, where more playbooks went on the bonfire. The Middle East was the graveyard of presidential legacies before and since, but Trump destroyed ISIS and delivered the Abraham Accords. Every economist ever granted a degree said that tariffs couldn't work, but he used them as leverage to negotiate better deals for American workers and manufacturers. Trump also displayed the uncanny foresight of a founder. He warned European leaders that their addiction to Russian gas and Chinese goods put them at the mercy of ruthless foes. He warned California's political class that its ludicrous environmental rules about forest management and endangered species risked ruining one of the most beautiful and special places on Earth. Like many prophets, his warnings fell on deaf ears, but he was right. If anything, Trump's second term is shaping up to be even more revolutionary than the first. He capped his first day in office with a broadside of activity, signing nearly 100 executive orders while taking questions from the press in the Oval Office. Bold proposals like DOGE, the External Revenue Service, Greenland, and the Panama Canal also feel distinctly founder-driven. Even Trump's forward mission statement reflects a founder focus. It's not about steady, predictable preservation of the status quo. It's about greatness, saving our country, and realizing America's exceptional potential. The companies and countries that are crushing it are almost always led by a founder personality with brilliance, vision, and maybe a touch of madness. These are the Elon Musks of industry, and they're the Javier Mileis and yes, Donald Trumps of government. If you want to inspire people to fight and accomplish great things, you don't tap an MBA or a lifelong politician. You bring the chainsaw and the kitchen sink. So that was Palantir CTO, Shyam I can't say these non-American names. Shyam Sankar. And now I'm going to play a clip for you here in just a sec of him on at this Senate Armed Forces Committee hearing, where he's talking about procurement. But first, before I get to that, let me play this for you as a little bit of context. So here's Palmer Luckey on the All In podcast a couple months ago, and I played this clip a couple months ago talking about these cost-plus contracts. But Palmer Luckey explains the cost-plus contract structure, which is how most work for the Department of Defense is done, and how it incentivizes everyone to come up with the most expensive way to solve a problem.
So they're largely just totally. Can I ask you something about this contract? Yeah. Just general terms. You said something very important before, which is the military-industrial complex today is basically paid to do work, right, not to get to a result.
Yes.
How do you fight that when you're like when you hear $1 billion contract? Is that cost plus that DoD just is willing to give you?
So this is, I mean, we could do a whole talk on this, but fundamentally, for people who don't know, a cost-plus contract structure is the way that most work for the Department of Defense is done. That means you get paid for your time, your materials, your people, and then a fixed percentage of profit on top, even if you're way over your budget, until Congress eventually takes the money.
And then
away
there's
from you.
layers of subcontractors, so the costs all add up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the bad thing about this is that not only the prime contractor owns the contract, but everyone under them is incentivized to come up with the most expensive way of solving a problem that they can convince the government to fund. So they wanted to build the most expensive system with the most expensive parts with as many hours as possible.
And the bids are so complex that you're only going to have 1 or 2 real bids.
Yep.
And they're basically going to be the same price.
And those top bids, the worst part is they're not just trying to come up with the most expensive solution. They're even encouraging the subcontractors under them.
They get a percent of,
because they get a percent of that. And so if I'm getting, let's say, 6% profit margin, I want to make it
as big a number as possible.
And I want to drag it out.
And that's why this budget's ballooned like crazy despite the lack of
And they make
results.
more money when they do poorly because they're not being paid to make things that work. They're being paid to do work. That's what I said. It's just the act of the doing is what gets
Okay, but I'm saying now flip it for you. What do you do different?
Robert Privas says, can you read the whole article again? I was distracted by the chat. Well, fortunately, you have a rewind button. So these cost plus contracts is something that the this overlap that has been developing between Silicon Valley and defense contracting. They have been harping on this for a really long time because defense is increasingly becoming technology based, and this whole idea of tech is a relatively new concept. 20 plus years ago, you wouldn't have even had an industry called tech. It would have been like what, like the industry that makes like microwaves and washers. Like, tech as a thing is a relatively new development, but it's not going away. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. It's here to stay. And so it's just a matter of time before the connection between tech and defense were merged, and there was national security implications to all of this. And so there's a utility here for us that they're coming in here as guys who want to build shit, and they want it to be done efficiently and effectively, and they want to maximize productivity and development and innovation, and they want the United States to continue existing as it does so that they have a place to do all of this, so they can get rich. So they can be they're I called them the grillionaires, the billionaires who just want to grill. Like, they just want to build their shit. They want to have an America where they can build. Uh-oh. Back to that in just a minute. We've got a little creature here. What are you doing, creature?
The beast is attacking you.
The beast is attacking me?
Uh-huh.
Come here, little man.
You say, I got a beast that's jumping up on me.
I've got a beast jumping up on me.
I'm the beast.
You're the beast? Did you eat some pizza?
Yes.
Was it good?
I'm the beast.
Don't get too loud. It'll hurt people's ears.
I'm the beast.
Apologies if that was loud. You getting ready for bed? You don't want to answer that question. No. Don't pull on it. Nope. Let go, please. Yeah, we don't want to break that. That would be bad. They're calling you Beastwood. Is that who you are now?
Nope.
What are you?
Just ask them to call me Beast.
Just call you Beast? Hey, Eastwood, please stop playing with that. All right. You guys have your marching orders. You gotta call him Beast. I think we're gonna call you Beastwood.
No, call me Beast.
All right, bud. I love you.
You know what kind of beast I am?
What kind of beast are you?
A trash compactor.
A trash compactor beast?
Uh-huh.
That's pretty crazy. Leave it alone.
Daddy.
Nope. I don't want you fiddling with that. You can go give that to mommy. She'll want to see that. Tell her it was in my backpack. I love you, big guy. Have a good sleep.
Have a good sleep.
We have an Eastwood intermission every episode. Reminder, we're going to have the Schizo stream in the King Pill Discord tonight. As soon as I finish the episode here, we'll need a brief break, and then kingpill.com is the place to go to sign up. We'll be watching some more of Tucker Carlson's All the President's Men series. We'll be watching the episode on Rudy Giuliani and the episode on Tucker. Okay, so what was I talking about here? Okay, so you have the military-industrial complex and all of the bloat and all of the waste and all of the graft that has been attached to it. And really, this has been, a lot of people have observed that this is like one of the core hubs of the regime. Like, this is how the regime has built itself out, using these like national security considerations to build up massive graft factories. Now, these guys are like, well, we want to innovate technologically. We see the direction that military defense is going, and it's increasingly going to become more and more tech directed, with software and drones. You've got the software innovations that has to be done. There has to be hardware innovations with drones and missiles and robots, and it's inevitable that these industries were going to collide, the defense industry and the tech industry. And once these tech guys get into something, well, they want it to run efficiently and effectively. They're not super ideological. They're more just kind of pragmatic. They're get shit done guys, which is what's taken them so long to kind of kick into action. But now, because they have this focus, and because the defense industry is so bloated and corrupt and slow, that's become a major national security risk. And what happened in Ukraine has revealed just how hollowed out American manufacturing is. If we were to actually get into a straight up direct conflict with a peer nation, we don't have the industrial capacity to carry that out. Like, the way that Russia has carried this out, the United States would never be able to do that. We just simply don't have the manufacturing, the control over our own currency, the manpower, the ethos. All of those things have disappeared. And so the PayPal mafia, all of these guys that we started talking about here on King Pilled a couple of years ago, year or so ago, it became evident to me after watching this for a few months that this is really a front for military interests. And I mean actual military interests, not corrupt military industrial complex loyalists, but the actual military interests, the actual generals, the actual warfighters, the actual financiers who are invested in America and don't want to see America go down the pipes because, like, that's where they keep all their stuff. It became very clear that that's what's happening here. And so now, because they have trained their sights on, we need to get lean and mean and productive on the defense side, it necessarily is going to have a total ripple effect out through everything else. Because of just how deeply embedded the military-industrial complex was into everything. That's what's facilitated. You have like the domestic agenda that gets tied to the foreign agenda. So you get like the foreign adventurism militarily forces a political trade-off on domestic things like, I don't know, the Civil Rights Act. And then you get the rise of the State Department, which is going to start doing their foreign lobbying and like pruning of everyone. And so then the trade-off for that is going to be the Patriot Act and domestic surveillance. This is where you got kind of like, you got the red team and you got the blue team. And so the red team wants to go do their foreign intervention. And so the blue team is going to get their pound of flesh domestically. Well, then the blue team starts piggybacking off of that foreign intervention infrastructure to start all of their grifts overseas. And the way that you work this out in a democracy is that all the blue team domestic interests are going to concede to the red team domestic interests for like the national security apparatus. And then you get the surveillance state and you get the FISA abuse and all this sort of stuff. So by going after the intentionally inflicted inefficiencies and waste, fraud, and abuse within the so-called military-industrial complex, by whittling that down, you necessarily have to whittle everything else has to get realigned because that was the base for it all. And so now it's not just the fact that these cost plus contracts are really inefficient and incentivize doing things as costly and inefficiently as possible. Like, that's a national security threat on its own. The offshoring of American manufacturing and industrial capacity is also a national security threat. And then the domestic labor force effects of that, which cause a lot of economic insecurity and promote, mental, psychological issues, drug abuse. You get a bunch of restless young men who don't really have anything to do, don't really have anything to point themselves in. Like, that becomes a national security threat. And so, you can get really hung up on the individual political inclinations or instincts or whatever of the tech bros, broadly speaking. The Silicon Valley, the venture capitalists, the Gundo types of people. You can kind of get autistically bogged down on what ethnicity or what ideological things they have, or what quotes they've had in the past and everything. But you're missing the forest for the trees. The forest here is that the thing that they're really good at is like a gigantic beast that has turned itself on the heart of all of the corruption that has characterized the regime. And now they want to go in and they want to start slashing stuff. Like, this is the motivation behind the Doge agenda. It's like culturally and business-wise drawn from the Silicon Valley founder culture, but it's a front for military interests who recognize that all of this DEI and ESG and the entire Democratic Party platform is a matter of national security. And so the vector that they're using to take over and begin cleaning shit out and getting everything back online is the tech bros. I said trooning. TROONING. Okay, so then here is, with that context, here is Shankar talking to what was this again? This was the Senate Armed Forces Committee on Defense Innovation and Acquisition Reform. And he uses the term monopsony. Now, if you don't know the term monopsony, it's not as common. Everyone knows monopoly. Monopoly is when you only have one seller for a certain service. So if I have a monopoly over something, then I'm the only person who can sell that thing. And there's lots and lots of buyers competing for the one seller. The monopsony is the other way around, where you have a single buyer. You have lots of sellers, but you have a single buyer. So let me share the screen here.
In the Department of the Air Force that want to do this.
This is
but
not
it is
him.
going to take a nudge to actually digitize and to make sure that massive risk aversion is saving dollars for the taxpayer and providing warfighting capability.
Thank you very much, Senator Banks. You've been indulgent, and the chair will be indulgent with you on your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sankar, what kind of a difference would it make if we gave the combatant commands their own acquisition authority?
I think it is the single biggest difference that we can make here. The Department of Defense is the only institution I know of that divides up supply and demand. The integration of supply and demand is the beating heart of any company, that consensus driving process. The COCOMs handle the demand, real-world events, the services, man, train, equip. They provide the supply. That would work if we really thought every COCOM and all needs were perfectly knowable and unitary across space and time here. But actually, all of our advantage comes from the fact that we might need slightly different things, and the signal for where that comes from is the combatant commander. So how do we give the people closest to the fight the ability to express a little bit of competitive demand signal. 90% of what you want is probably coming from the services, but that 10% gap is what's going to make or break us in that fight. How do we give them a little bit of budget, a little bit of authority, an ability to break the monopsony and introduce something like a free market where there's multiple demand signals coming? And if we go back to a world where, how did we have a world where every service was competing to build an ICBM? Well, maybe a COCOM commander should decide whether the Navy or the Air Force has the better idea and concept for their specific force employment or the emergent needs that they're actually seeing. And I think that competition will get us all to be better.
Seems like common sense. Why aren't we doing that already?
I think having the luxury of having won the Cold War is we view that as duplication. We view that as wasteful. Why can't we just pick the right answer up front? I think our system is exquisitely designed to solve all problems that can be solved deductively, top down. We can think our way through it. But the promise of America is that there's so much messiness. It's all inductive. Our system is very, very bad. It's poorly set up currently to find the things you got to reason your way through. You got to experience it, roll up your sleeves, get dirty, and realize new insights as a consequence of doing that. I think we solve that by giving a little bit of strategic autonomy to the COCOM commanders to buy what they need and to build what they need.
So play that out. How would the services and the defense agencies react if they had to compete with another buyer?
Well, I think like most people don't really like competition. Of course, a part of that's going to be a threat. But I think if you get past the initial hysteresis you'll have, the next step from that is, okay, well, how do I actually change what I'm building so that the COCOM commander wants what I'm building? That's where we're going to start to get the leverage from that. I can think about it as this is also the idea around competing programs and competing program managers that I saw in the Forged Act, where if we have, what is the incentive for a program manager to adopt new commercial approaches that actually disrupts their existing program? So I think today's incentive with a unitary effort is deny, 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 pretend it doesn't exist, block it, versus actually I'm competing against another great American one corridor down. I want to be the first person to adopt the disruptive technology so that I can win.
Do you have a good example where the combatant command's lack of acquisition authority caused delays or even hurt the mission?
Well, I think you could look at the success of Project Maven, which really didn't come from the services. People love to deride OSD level efforts as bureaucratic or, not sustainable. But that innovation really came from the 18th Airborne. It came from CENTCOM. It came from EUCOM. It came from the Afghan NEO. It came from the emerging demand signal in the world, the crisis that had to be responded to, the learning that could only happen there, folded in capabilities that ultimately scaled to the force.
Mr. Gertz, program managers in the private sector.
So the combatant COCOM stands for combatant command, and there are 11 different combatant commanders for different districts. You've heard of CENTCOM and AFRICOM and EUCOM and all the different combatant commanders. So basically, what he's describing is giving each individual combatant commander the ability to do their own acquisition, which makes the military much more flexible and nimble, and you get this introduction of competition, which drives more innovation, more expansion. You have more defense contractors, more suppliers, which flies directly in the face of the entire ethos of the regime in the centralized bureaucratic bloat that developed. Now, what's the signal in all this? The signal here is that our guys are going to be given a tremendous opportunity to get into the defense contracting world, because this is the direction that things are going. The entire federal government apparatus is being leaned out and made much more nimble and able to focus and adjust and focus and adjust and focus and adjust. And these sorts of like pro-competitive types of notions that completely fly in the face of the previous way of doing things will allow lots of opportunities for our guys to begin insinuating themselves into this. This is a massive potential for expanding opportunities for our guys. When I say we need to build, this is what I'm talking about. These are the sorts of things that are coming down the pike. And as Robert Prevost says, this dude, despite being brown, passes the physiognomy test. He does indeed. And he's another one like Kash Patel that if you just heard him talking, like you just heard his voice, you would never guess that he was a Jeet. Vulpes Persona said, extend patronage. This is the potential, the capacity for new patronage networks to develop. Not everything is going to get run through, Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. Like they're not necessarily going to get absolute priority anymore. What this guy is doing is he's effectively lobbying on behalf of the Gundo boys. If we've got some new startup that figures out some innovative thing on how to do whatever, whether it's machine learning or developing, it's like a nuclear application or some new drone capacity or whatever. If you have a little organization of just a few guys, but you figure something out, maybe you set up some machine shops and you start machining particular parts. We need to have a military that can begin contracting with that tiny little firm because they're the ones that do it the best. And then you don't get the, $8,000 hammers or whatever, which is obviously just a way to launder money. I don't care if this guy's a Jeet. I care about this sort of thing. Mr. Mirachek says, America's greatest cultural industrial strength is that fail often early, learn between fail states, improve, build empire grind set. You can also lose everything and build it all back constantly. That's a completely alien concept outside of the USA. And that's the founder mode grind set that they embody. This is why I love these PayPal Mafia type dudes, these Silicon Valley guys so much. Even some things are more important than political ideology. And he put together this. I would encourage you guys to go read through this. I'm not going to have time to go through every last little bit of this pitch deck that he put together. There's a transcript from his opening statement in that video. My message today is simple. Defense innovation and procurement are broken, and they're broken at precisely the moment we need them to deter and defeat our enemies. Our defense industrial base and defense innovation base are wholly ill-equipped for these challenges. More than ever, the United States needs mass production and speed to deter conflict. The stockpile is not the deterrent. The flow of mass production is the deterrent. There is little evidence our industrial base, as currently constituted, is delivering this deterrent capability. I believe this problem is caused by perverse incentives embedded in our broken acquisitions process. Put simply, the Pentagon is a difficult customer. It is also the only customer. The defense market is functionally a monopsony, where the sole buyer shapes the market with overly prescriptive requirements, overly complex regulations, and 5-year plans more reminiscent of the countries we defeated in the last century than America's free, innovative capitalist system. This monopsony has created a vast gulf or great schism, note that term, we'll come back to that in a minute, between the defense sector and the commercial sector. Innovative companies capable of competing in the larger, more lucrative commercial market have fled the defense market. Meanwhile, specialist defense contractors have been cut off from the refining pressure of the marketplace and have consequently grown bloated and uncompetitive. Today, most defense contractors resemble their government customer more closely than the founder-driven, innovative companies they once were. Bridging this divide and introducing greater competition and market pressure into the defense sector is the first step to sparking defense innovation and repairing defense acquisitions. These changes must be accompanied by a change in mindset. We need to overcome the complexity and bureaucracy of the present system and understand that winning is the only requirement that matters. If we can drive substantive reforms of the process and create a bias towards speed and decisive action, then I am confident that many patriots in government and industry will rise to meet this moment. Appended to this statement is a copy of the Defense Reformation, a treatise I produced late last year that explores these issues in greater detail and provides actionable recommendations for reform. So this is his, I got to zoom this out just a bit, the Defense Reformation. As a nation, we are in an undeclared state of emergency. Around 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, China militarized the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea, and Iran was allowed to pursue the bomb. A decade later, we've had more than 300 attacks on U.S. bases by Iran, 1,200 people slaughtered in a pogrom in Israel, an estimated 1 million casualties in brutal combat in Ukraine, and an unprecedented tempo of CCP Phase Zero operations in the Taiwan Straits. This is a hot Cold War II. The West has empirically lost deterrence. We must respond to this emergency to regain it. We have a peer adversary, China. Near peer is a shibboleth, a euphemism to avoid the embarrassment of acknowledging we have peers when we were once peerless. In World War II, America was the best at mass production. Today, that distinction belongs to our adversary. America's national security requires a robust industrial base, or it will lose the next war and plunge the world into darkness under authoritarian regimes. In the current environment, American industries can't produce a minimum line of ships, subs, munitions, aircraft, and more. It takes a decade or two to deliver new major weapon systems at scale. If we're in a hot war, we would only have days' worth of ammunition and weapons on hand. Even more alarming is our lack of capacity and capability to rapidly repair and regenerate our weapon systems. Given the vast sums we've spent on defense in these decades of Pax Americana, it would be reasonable to wonder what went wrong. And these are the segments here. Section 1, The Last Supper and Great Schism. Section 2, The Department's Heresy. Section 3, The 18 Theses of the Defense Reformation. And the conclusion is the resurrection of the American industrial base. And I'll just show you this graph right here, and then I'll have to keep it going to the last couple of stories that I've got. Maybe I'll come back and do an episode reading through this whole thing because it's very interesting. But this is the corporate consolidation of the defense sector. So this is 1980. It starts here at 1980 and runs up to the present. And you can see all these different companies back in 1980, all these different defense contractors that were ultimately absorbed into Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics. I want to keep reading this whole thing, but I don't have time because I gotta get wrapped up here shortly. There's this great tweet from Bology talking about the Tech Bros, but I think I'm gonna have to save that one. Maybe I'll do an unscheduled stream tomorrow, and I'll read through that. Is that something you guys would be interested in? If I read through this thing, it's 21 pages long. We're on page 7 here. I could read through that, and I could do this Bology thing talking about the. He says we need the tech bro. Massachusetts equals tech. Virginia equals bro. The synthesis is greatness. Lift weights, yes, but train weights too. I'll do an episode where I just focus on those things. Let me pull them out of here for now. Actually, I'll leave that there. And okay. Let's round this off with this here. This is from Owen Cyclops at Owen Broadcast on Twitter. He has a lot of these very interesting thoughts. He says, there's an idea that when you talk to kids, you ask them obvious questions. What color is the fire engine? When you're both looking at a fire engine. But kids have no concept of didactic questioning. So they think the adults asking are just stupid and genuinely need an answer. Interesting to wonder what the developmental consequences of this will be. Almost everyone does this now. And what color is the truck? Green. But no one has ever explained this to the kid. A huge percentage of them leave these interactions assuming it was a real question. And Carlos that notices things here says, makes me think of this Norm anecdote.
What do you do with your son?
I play with him.
You do. How old is he now?
How old is this young man? He's 15 years old.
15 years
You're
old.
still playing with him. Right. You know, it's a funny thing.
Yeah.
When he was a very young boy, you know, when he was like 3, 4, or something like that, I would play games with him. You know, like we'd play basketball or something.
Sure.
And I'd let him win.
Right.
You know, and now he can beat me at everything. And so he's like, "Hey, man, I always beat you at everything." I said, "No, fuck, I used to let you win." He go, "Fuck, he doesn't believe it."
He always beat you.
Yeah, so he just thinks I'm some retard that can't beat a fucking infant.
Now, I've noticed this with Eastwood, where when I've done these little things with him, he reacts with like kind of annoyed. Like I'll ask him one of these really basic questions that's just kind of instinctive. Like you have this wired in you that this is the way you talk to a little kid. And I'll ask him a really obvious question and he'll give me the answer kind of like, why are you asking me that? And I never really considered it this way, but that like a little kid doesn't have they may know what the thing is, but they don't understand necessarily what the didactic questioning thing is. And if you're asking them a question, they're like, "Why are you stupid? Why are you asking me an obvious thing?" So I thought this was interesting when I saw it, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I'm gonna be thinking about this more often and trying to avoid these sorts of interactions and come up with more creative ways of asking. This person replied and said, "I'm forever thankful I was asked a lot more investigative questions than interrogative, i.e., why do you think the fire truck is red? Or how do you know it's red, even at a young age? Rote memorization occurred, but why and how were never neglected." And there's a quote here from Richard Feynman. It says, "I learned very early the difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something." And then a little bit of some white pills here at the very end. This is from OrthoDoge at Real Joseph B on Twitter. He says, "Had an Amish guy from out of state come visit our parish. He stayed at the crib. It was crazy. He left a community on the East Coast and traveled to the Midwest to meet a priest that was Amish and converted to Orthodoxy. He's going to Jordanville next. He said the Amish are becoming more aware of Orthodoxy, and where he lives, they're incorporating some Orthodox theology and practices while multiple families are considering converting." If we get... I'm very excited to see if we start getting mass conversions of Amish to Orthodoxy. It's going to be beautiful, especially if we get the Amish. What was the clip I played the other day where the Amish were like, we'll take over FEMA. So let's get a bunch of Ortho Amish running FEMA. That is what I'm talking about. And here is a video I wanted to share real quick about one of these. So let me back up. There's a lot of very common growing up in kind of generic Protestant world where people would say, what sort of miracles are there? Are there still miracles today? And then you kind of have like, oh yeah, there's miracles. This guy was sick and then he got better, or I prayed for about this thing and then I got that thing, which is great. It's I'm not downplaying those things, but after joining the Orthodox Church and seeing and experiencing the types of miracles that happen regularly within the church and have happened for its entire history, it's downright silly to me and sad, honestly, that people would even have that thought. Like, do miracles even happen anymore? Like, what happened? There used to be all these miracles, and now the miracles don't happen anymore. When you're part of the Orthodox Church, you can see legit miracles on a regular basis. This is from Father Christopher, an Orthodox priest of Romania. He says, "O most holy Theotokos, we thank thee for the miracle of thy myrrh-streaming icon, a sign of thy love and care for us. Intercede with thy Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, for the forgiveness of our sins, the healing of our souls and bodies, and strength and faith. Protect us under thy holy veil and guide us on the path of salvation. O Mother of God, save us." And here is a video of a myrrh-streaming icon. These icons just stream myrrh. There's no little pump in there. The icon just sits there, and this gorgeous, beautiful, sweet smelling myrrh just emerges from it. Look at this. O most holy Theotokos, save us. And I'll leave you guys off with this one. Mark my words, one day, America will be holy. St. Paisios. Jason Miranchuk says, did you know that Miran comes from myrrh? Murchuk. Well, now we're just going to have to call you Murchuk, man. Tune in to Miranchuk now for his new series with Jim Jotras. Ortho Chance will be in the house. Go subscribe to Miranchuk now. Subscribe to the channel here. We're at 117 likes, still got 147 watching, so hit the like button on your way out. I'm going to give you Hulk. And one last reminder, go to kingpill.com, sign up for the King Pill Discord, and join us in the Schizo stream. We'll be going live here probably in about 20 minutes or so in the King Pill Discord. I would love to see some new folks in there with us. So, kingpill.com is the place to be for that. Follow me on Twitter, @RealKingPilled. You can support the show. Buymeacoffee.com/KingPilled. You can subscribe, become a paying member on the King Pilled Substack at kingpilled.substack.com, which is where I will be posting this episode when it's done, along with all of the links that I went through today that you guys can go. I encourage you to go pour through them. And there's also a Cash App link in the description. And I appreciate all you guys for the super chats, the members. Oh, there was one other thing. I saw a new member came through. Robert Privas, welcome. Became a member of the King Pilled. It's only $5 a month. It's one of the ways you can support the show here. So I appreciate all of you showing up. I hope you had a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday with another episode of the Astrolabe. Saw700 says, is Discord men only? No. We actually have a handful of women in there. You even get a special role. If you're a woman, you get a special role that identifies you as a wench. The wench role. So we'd love to see you in there. Taylor Brown says, join the Discord. That's right. So for those of you who are in the Discord, we are constantly bricked up. For those of you who are in there, I will see you in just a few minutes. For everyone else, I'll see you on Monday. So now, I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America